Thank you for joining us this morning for our new Financial Reporting Requirements webcast. I'm Donna Duncan. I am the Director of the Division of District Support. With me this morning are Jesse Carlton and Steve Lyles, who are the Assistant Directors of the Division. And manning the questions board is Che Ritter, who heads our District Funding and Financial Reporting branch. The purpose of today's webcast is to highlight important new financial reporting requirements affecting school districts. There is a strong interest in Kentucky today among the Kentucky Board of Education, legislators, community, and parents in having increased transparency in school districts. The relationship between student achievement and success and funds used to support schools is critically important and certainly deserving this attention. And in fact, the Kentucky Board of Education recently reconfigured its committee structure to have one committee solely dedicated to finance. As we all know, district funding at the state level has been static or declining in cases, which puts additional pressure on districts to raise local taxes. And in many communities, this has led to resistance and increased demands to curtail expenditures and increase transparency. The Kentucky Board of Education, through its Finance Committee, is hoping to take a more active role in understanding the expenditures at the district level, and they will be placing a strong emphasis on district and school reporting of revenues and expenditures. It's more important than ever for districts to seek ways to inform their communities about the work they do and the cost it takes to provide quality education in Kentucky. This requires more openness and increased efforts for accuracy and uniformity in reporting. This isn't only happening in Kentucky, but it's going on nationally. I think we all see in various magazines and articles about the increased need for transparency or increased awareness to school expenditures. The two initiatives we are discussing today are at the heart of the drive to increase transparency of reporting, identify administrative expenses that could be reduced to increase efficiency, and provide consistency in reporting to allow for enhanced capability to compare cost with outcomes. Steve is going to discuss recently enacted legislation that will require new reporting requirements at the state level. Jesse will discuss new reporting requirements at the federal level that will also impact state level reporting. So Steve, let's start with you.
Thank you, Donna. All right, first we're going to discuss a spotlight on expenditures, and as Donna mentioned, there's a call for greater transparency and consistency throughout our reporting at a state level and at a federal level. So both House Bill 200 and the new ESSA reporting requirements put a spotlight on this. And so that's very important for us to understand. And in saying that, also, there's separate reporting requirements at both levels, at a state and federal requirement. And so in saying that, though, there's also an increased attention to coding. So it's very important for the coding level at the district to be spot on, so that when we report to the legislators, whether it be local, state, or federal, that we have that right so that we can record those. House Bill 200 also, the main thing that it prescribes to us is administrative expenditures, and the report that has is it's due to LRC on or before December 1st. And so we'll talk about that a little bit later on the due dates of the reporting. The ESSA per pupil expenditures will be reported via the school report card in the spring, and Jesse will talk about that a little bit later as well. All right, first we'll dive into House Bill 200 and the requirements that it prescribes to us. And there are four main reporting requirements that it has, and we'll talk about a little of those in detail. And so the first one of those, and they're 1 through 4 in the House bill, and the first one says that we are to provide all expenses charged to instruction, student support services, instructional staff support services, district admin support services, school admin support services, and business support services. And all those are delineated by munis support subfunction. So that may sound like a lot of finance jargon, but your finance officer will be able to help you understand those if you have difficulty. Number 2 that's a requirement for districts is to provide a comparison of those numbers to previous years. So in the case of this year, it's comparing 2017 to 2018 numbers. The third item that's required in House Bill 200 is to provide an explanation of the steps taken to reduce those administrative expenditures. And that can be done in several different ways. One is you can do a line-by-line narrative to explain ups and downs, or you can do an overall narrative to explain maybe something drastic that's happened in your district, or you can do a combination of both. So you can do a line-by-line or overall narrative to explain those. And then the fourth item that's required is a district is required to have a policy for maintaining a reserve fund balance. And we partnered with KSBA, and they provided us, and provided districts actually, with a sample policy that you're able to incorporate. And so hopefully, and I've seen and I've looked at several districts, and most have already incorporated this, but if you have not, you can go out to the KSBA website and look at their sample policies and procedures. And they are policy 4.1 and policy 4.91. Those will give you the necessary policies in place to meet that part of the bill. Okay. Moving along to the reporting aspect. As I mentioned earlier, the report is due to LRC, and the contact there is Christy Glass, and her email is on the screen at christy.glass@lrc.ky.gov. And then also, in the same time, you are to remit a copy to KDE, and we have set up a separate email for that as well, and it's HB200 admin cost at education.ky.gov. And in order to keep all of these files separate, instead of having 173 different names, we've set up a naming convention for those. And so if you'll look at the screen and look at your PowerPoint, we've had a district name underscore HB200. So if you will name the file that, that will help us to keep all the files separated. And then Jesse, do you have anything you want to add on additional reporting that might be required on the school report card as far as this goes?
Yeah. When we talk about school report card here in a little while, there's a new school report card that's starting this year, and with all the interest with the administrative costs, it is possible that some of this data could show up on your school report card this year, broken down by administrative costs. We haven't exactly decided. We're still working through what is going to be part of the new school report card, but it's good to know that not only will this be brought to the attention of LRC, but it may be something that could show up on your school report card in the spring with your other financial data as well.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. You might ask, well, how do we get this information? Our friends over in OET, Kristen Lambert specifically, helped created this template that puts together the information and for House Bill 200. And it's put together in a data cube that comes through Munis. And so what is a data cube? It's a multidimensional set of data that can be stored in a spreadsheet, providing a means to summarize information from a raw data source. And so, like I said, it's pulled directly from Munis, and that data is updated once daily. So it's not real time 100% of the time, but it is updated daily. So you have fresh data daily that report can be pulled from. Instructions on how to do that can be reached from our website, from Munis Support Guides website under General Ledger statewide reports. So if you have need to know how to do that, you or your finance officer can find our website to do that. All right. The preparation and timeline on these reports. We've been discussing this since the bill came out back in the spring, but our first official workshop on this was back in June with our finance officer and auditor workshop on June 28th. We discussed House Bill 200 in ESSA. Then we also had a webinar on September 11th on how to do the Excel cube, and then today's webinar to superintendents. And so there's been several times that we've tried to discuss this and show how hopefully simple and painless we're trying to make this. And so if you still have questions and issues, please reach out to us and we'll help in any way we can. And so the data for House Bill 200 is due to LRC and KDE on December 1st, but we recommend, as our audits are due, as you can look at your calendar, the audits are due November 15th, which is right around the corner. So please remit the House Bill 200 report around the same time if possible, because all your information is already done, your AFR, your audited AFR, and the audit is already completed. So now that would be a good time as well to remit this. So also guidance on calculating the 2017-18 per pupil expenditure to be sent out from KDE will be around the first of the year. And another note is per pupil expenditure data entered into the school report card by schools after financial data audits and reviews have been completed in spring of 2019. All right. So previous workshops and presentations and any data documentation presented during these can be found on the KDE website. And like I mentioned, we've had several opportunities already, but any opportunities that are out there that we provide, whether it be webinars, whether it be emails, anything, are open to the public on our website, and we're welcome to share those. And as well as I'm getting tongue tied, as well as today's webcast. So today's webcast can be found on the website as well. So I think Jesse is going to take it over from here and talk about ESSA.
All right. So after you, oh, I forgot about the questions. Yes. Che, do we have anything that has come in for House Bill 200 questions? Nope, not right now. Okay. All right. Well, we'll circle back around to questions at the end. So if you have any, send those in to that gosoapbox.com address, and we'll get them answered here. And Che will shoot you back an answer, and everybody will know where we need to be. Okay, moving on to the ESSA section. There's an increased spotlight on the finances, not only at a state level, but at a federal level as well. They're going to be more visible due to this additional reporting, and I think the overall one of the goals was to make this data more easily comparable between districts and schools. So as Steve spoke of, there's going to be an increased need for proper coding, not only at the state level, at the state level for the data, not only here, but that will be looked at federally. So under ESSA, for the first time, states are required to publish the per pupil spending for each school and district in the state. The good news here is that here in Kentucky, we have been doing this on our school report card. Now, how we're going to calculate the data is going to change a little bit, but the good news for us here is it's good timing for this here in Kentucky. We are getting a new school report card this year, which is going to make a nice break between the old way of calculating and the new way of calculating. So we're going to step down through here and look at the requirements under ESSA and how that calculation is going to change a little bit. Okay, states and districts and schools are going to be required to include per pupil expenditures that will be disaggregated by source funds. They'll need to include actual personnel and non-personnel expenditures. We are going to ask for the school level calculations to follow the same requirements for consistency so that they will all be able to be comparable. All right, this is kind of an overview of the data. It won't look exactly like this in the new school report card, but these are the main buckets, if you will, of data that will be reported. Anything highlighted on your screen right now is something that KDE is going to provide. We will still provide, like we have in the past, the state data and your district data. Now, the school data will be supplied by each school or district, and it will need to be broken down into these categories. So I spoke of a new way to calculate this, so let's look at some of the changes. ESSA requirements align with existing NCES data collection procedures. You can see there on your screen on the left what all it includes and what it doesn't include on the right. It doesn't include debt services, capital outlay, community services. So how do you pull all of this data? Your finance officer, who is well versed in Munis, will know what all of these codes and objects and project codes mean. We've gathered them into these groups so that when you pull your data out of Munis, these will be the funds and object codes and project codes that you will need to pull out. Like Steve said, there will be more detailed instructions coming out at the first of the year. We're still waiting for the feds to 100% nail down that this is exactly what they're going to do and nothing's going to change. So we'll have, we don't think this is going to change, but this is what we're looking towards right now for the funds and objects and project codes that you're going to need for these calculations. All right, one of the biggest changes that will be for us is in the denominator of this calculation. In the past, we have used the ADA in your school as your denominator for the calculation. ESSA this year is requiring us to use a membership number, which is for them the aggregate number of students enrolled in preschool to 12th grade on or about October 1st. Federal reporting is done at KDE every year, and an October 1st membership is provided to the federal government every year from here at KDE for districts and schools. This year, that hasn't been anything you have needed in the past. It's been just federally reported from here, pulled out of Infinite Campus. This year, after it is federally reported, we're working on pulling those numbers together now and submitting them. After they're finalized, we will post those to our website, and in the documentation at the first of the year, we'll tell you where to go get that number. So you'll be able to pull out the same number that was reported federally for your schools and districts and use that membership number as your denominator. Okay. This year we're also going to provide a template for this calculation. In the past we had instructions that just kind of gave you the rundown of what you were supposed to do. Now we're going to provide this Excel document to hopefully increase consistency across the state of how this calculation is being done. Anything in yellow on your screen right now will be something that your finance officer will either be the membership that's pulled from our website or the expenditures for the locations or your district that we'll be able to put in there. This will do the prorated calculation of all your district-wide expenditures to prorate that out over to each of your school locations. We're trying to bring some consistency to how everyone does that. We know that some people hold things at the district level and code it that way for a specific reason in your district, which is fine, and we understand. Just trying to streamline the process of how people prorate that amount out to your schools. But you still will have the ability, if you know where some specific expenditures go, if they only go to 2 schools, you will still have the ability to put those just in that location because that's where they accurately go. Okay, what is all of this for? All of this is leading us to what is going to be reported on our new school report card. As many of you know, we have a new vendor who is creating the new school report card for us. I'm sure that many of you have actually even been in the new school report card with Safe Schools data going out and being signed off on. You know how this is going to look. It has a new look. It has a new feel. It's all a little bit of a change for everyone, so it's going to be new for everybody, growing pains into the new system. But I think everybody is going to really like it. One of the good things that it's going to include a school and district comparison feature, so that parents or anyone else who's wanting to look at schools within your district or between districts will be able to. It will have the sign-off feature for the financial data, like you've had to sign off on your Safe Schools data and all the other data that's getting ready to come out. The same feature will be attached to the per-pupil expenditures and any finance data that comes out in the spring. Speaking of in the spring, we're going to keep that on the same time frame this year. Last year, 2 years ago, just last year, we were able to pull that date to align with the audits better. So we're not trying to push all of that into the normal school report card time around this time of the year. We get to wait until all that audited data comes in, and that will hit probably end of March, 1st of April, that we'll be asking you to put in this school level data. Along with the school level data, we're also looking at all of the finance data that is reported out there on school report card at the district level. Many of the current data points are going to remain the same, but as we spoke of earlier, due to the interest in administrative costs and specific expenditures, we may dive down into those a little bit more. may have some more detailed information that wasn't provided on the previous report card. But we are working with our finance officer advisory group to, get your all's thoughts out in the district of what would be good to be on there, what you'd like to show, what needs to be on there, what you don't think has any would be good for parents to see and they'd be interested in. Like House Bill 200, the new school report card in the finance section will have this narrative section that we are providing to the districts. That will be your opportunity to kind of paint the picture of what's going on in your district. If there's something that's happening or you'd like to explain, or just, if you want to give an overall picture to paint the picture of what's going on in your district, there'll be a narrative section that hasn't existed in the past, but you'll be able to provide to us and will show on the school report card. So, as of right now, I think that is all we have on House Bill 200 and ESSA. Che, do we have any questions that have come in? No questions. Okay, well, anything from anybody else in the room here? All right. Okay, so last slide we have here, we have quite a few contacts for you. There is the information for Steve and myself and also for Che. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Also at the bottom, that is the Munis support mailbox. If you're having trouble with the cube, finance officers having trouble with the cube, there's somebody always manning that mailbox. So that's where you will need to send all your questions. Your finance officers probably know several people on this screen and had dealt with the Munis mailbox before. So, but we'd like to hear from you too. If you have any comments or questions that as superintendent you'd like to send us, you're more than welcome to. So take a look around the room. Does everybody seem to be good here? All right, no questions or anything else. We'll sign off from here today. Thank you all for joining us today.